Picture two scenes. In the first, a young man sits alone in a dark room, scrolling through a porn site. If society catches him, he is pathologized. He's labeled a participant in a predatory system. His desire is branded as base, objectifying, and inherently unclean. In the second scene, a group of young women sit in a well lit, aesthetic coffee shop for a Sunday book club. They're eagerly dissecting a 500-page romantasy novel, a book featuring graphic, borderline abusive obsession, dubious consent, and explicit sexual encounters with a mafia boss or a vampire or a billionaire. If society catches them, it is celebrated. It is a bestseller. It is female empowerment. It is a TikTok phenomenon. Why is male sexuality relegated to the shadowed alleys of the internet, while female sexuality, often just as graphic, just as extreme, is commercially celebrated in the fluorescent aisles of mainstream bookstores? Today, we're going to autopsy a profound cultural hypocrisy. We're going to take a look at the ruthless, unspoken economy of the modern maiden dance. An economy where male desire is vilified, female fantasies are sanitized, and genuine human connection has suffered a massive hyperinflation. Now, let me be absolutely unequivocally clear before the pitchforks come out. This is not a defense of the pornography industry. The exploitation, the trafficking, the coercion that exist at its fringes are abhorrent and they're real. But we need to have a deeply honest conversation about how we assign moral blame. When a teenager endlessly scrolls through social media, or an adult for that matter, we don't accuse them of personally subsidizing cartel violence or child exploitation, even though those horrors undeniably exist in the dark corners of those same servers. We understand that the platform bears the sin of the fringe, while the user is simply participating in the modern digital commons. We trust the user to flag the bad when we inevitably stumble into it, and we navigate the ambiguities, however imperfectly. Yet, when the subject is male visual sexuality, that nuance vanishes. The mainstream user is suddenly indicted for the sins of the fringe. Why? Because it serves the broader societal narrative, the idea that male lust at its core is a deep-seated predatory rot. But the critics will say, wait, video is different. Pornography is visual, it's instant, it fries the dopamine receptors. Books require imagination. They're not the same. This is the ultimate blind spot. We are measuring the toxicity of a drug by applying it to the wrong receptor. Male sexuality is heavily influenced by visual, instantaneous stimuli. Female sexuality is heavily driven by context, narrative, emotional buildup, interrelational dynamics. So a 600-page graphic smut novel is the exact same dopamine mainline for a woman as a video clip is for a man. They're both synthetic, hyper-concentrated, supernormal stimuli perfectly engineered to hijack their respective genders' psychological wiring. And the tragic irony is that they both yield the exact same devastation. Look at the consequences. Visual pornography, especially when heavily consumed from adolescents, correlates with an escalation towards extreme content and measurable body dissatisfaction. A warped baseline of what the human body should look like. The causal mechanism is debated and the many variables are also in debate, but the pattern is consistent enough that we've built an entire public health apparatus and social consciousness around it. But written erotica escalates unrealistic relational and behavioral extremes. It romanticizes the hyper competent, dangerously wealthy, emotionally unavailable man who is tamed by the protagonist. It rebrands toxic obsession and possessiveness as passion. And the result? It arguably leaves women desensitized and entirely dissatisfied with normal, average men who work regular jobs and possess standard human flaws. One medium pressures expectation of the human body. The other medium pressures expectation of human behavior. The evidence on both is incomplete, but we only sound the alarm on one. Society pathologizes the man for fallen prey to his visual biology, but we give a blank check to the psychological depths of what women imagine, labeling that as romance. This deep-seated belief that his desire is dirty and hers is pristine doesn't just exist in fantasy. It dictates the brutal reality of the modern dating market. It establishes a transactional baseline from an early age where boys are socialized to believe that they have to earn more and sacrifice his well-being in order to purchase access. His desire is a simple spark, but her consent is a complex checklist. Now, let's be fair to history here. That checklist was not born of malice. Evolutionarily, the consequences of a sexual encounter for a woman, the pregnancy, the physical vulnerability of both them and their offspring, carried massive life-altering risks. That vetting process, the demand for security and resource provision, was a literal survival mechanism. But we don't live in the Pleistocene epoch anymore. We now live in a post-birth control, dual income, and highly sanitized era. The aesthetic of the transaction has survived, even though the biological necessity has waned. That ancient survival mechanism has mutated into a purely consumerist barrier to entry. And the psychological toll on young men is immense. They begin to internalize this asymmetry. They realize that their financial subsidy, the toll of the 6 Ds, that's the dinners, drinks, dates, diamonds, and driving, and dances, I think I missed one, is the absolute minimum requirement that they have to pay to atone for the inherent dirtiness of their wants. And this brings us to the final unspoken reality of the modern maiden dance: supply and demand. In this marketplace, the modern man is like a nation hopelessly addicted to oil. He refuses, or better yet, is incapable of letting go of his gas-guzzling engine. The demand is constant, and women collectively operate in a dynamic that resembles an OPEC cartel. Now, this isn't some smoky backroom conspiracy where women meet on Tuesdays in order to set the price of a date. It's an algorithmic reality. The digital age, the dating apps, social media validation, OnlyFans, has made attention hyperabundant. A woman can get all the validation she wants from thousands or even millions of men without ever having to leave her couch. But while the supply of attention is abundant, the actual connection, actual intimacy is meticulously throttled. The supply of genuine connection is tightly controlled, which has artificially hyperinflated the commodity's worth. The price of entry for the average man has skyrocketed, not because the product is better, the product here being genuine connection, but rather because the currency of his attention has been devalued to near zero. And men do hold some of the blame in this. for being so indiscriminate and lavish with our attention. We've built a culture that tells men that their baseline nature is toxic, demands that they pay a historical premium to access less connection than ever, and we're surprised that there is an epidemic of male loneliness, resentment, and withdrawal. Things that are fueling an even more dangerous society, which we're all too happy to complain about. We expect men to still honor their traditional gender roles even when no meaningful connection has yet been established, and also towards women who have no interest in anything other than attention and resource extraction, while at the same time calling these men sexist if they dare have their own traditional expectations of women. It's time to drop the moral panic. It's time to recognize that the fluorescent aisles of the bookstore and the shadowed alleys of the internet are feeding the exact same human hunger, just in different languages. Until we stop pathologizing male desire and sanitizing female fantasy, the maiden dance will remain a cold, ruthless transaction. And in a hyperinflated economy built on shame, eventually everybody goes bankrupt.